In this video I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks for when you travel to your next race. What is up everybody, and welcome back to 40 Runs. Now this is another video in our awesome series as we head to Edinburgh for the Edinburgh Marathon, and this video is dedicated is a strong word, but dedicated to some tips and hints about the sort of things that I make sure I do and mistakes I've made in the past, but things I do when I travel to a city or another country for a race or event. I thought it'd be cool to talk about that because it is something that comes up a little bit on the long run podcast that we do. If you've not checked that out, make sure you do. Link is in the description. But yeah, so I thought this video would be a good opportunity to talk about some of those tips and hints, things that I do when I travel a long way or relatively long way for a race. Okay, so the first thing you've got to think about, and what I think about, is your mode of travel. Now, if you're flying, which Sabrina and Toby are up to Edinburgh, you need to think about a couple of things before you jump on that plane. Now, the first thing is flying dehydrates you. You probably know that, but how much do you actually factor that in when you are flying, in particularly when you're going to a race, because you need to be hydrated before you get on that start line. So it's even more important to hydrate before, during and after a flight. Now it depends how long your flight is, but you need to eat well before, during and after the flight, because sometimes you get on a plane and it's just like really bad food, so you need to make sure you've eaten before you get on the plane. If you're eating on the plane, maybe you're doing a long haul, you need to think about what you're eating. So again, just try and think about the process of eating during a long flight, and also afterwards, because if you haven't eaten on the plane, you need to make up for the sort of deficit that you've left after not eating for a period of time. Next little tip for if you're flying is to take your running gear on board with you. Why? Because what happens if your case gets lost? Then you've got to run it in your jeans, right? So just think about it. Put your running stuff, your running kit, I'm talking shorts, vest and running shoes, in your kit bag, in your take-on bag, because the worst case, you can run in that. Last tip for flying is to think about the time difference. Do you need some sleep, not sleep, all that kind of stuff. Just sort of factor that in again when you're flying. Just try and think about the whole process of the flight, and whether you're going to get there 8 hours difference and all that kind of stuff, whether you need to sleep, not sleep, stay awake, all that kind of stuff you need to factor in, because it really, really is important, because you want to, again, lessen the impact of any sort of jet lag. Okay, so you've got to your race or event city. The first thing I would say is find somewhere to eat and drink. Obviously once you checked into your hotel, but eat and drink. Again, you're making an important step about hydrating after the flight. You're catching up with calories and carbohydrates that you may need to add into your diet that you've not necessarily done over the last couple of hours because you've been travelling. So it's really important to do that, but also I think it's kind of nice just to sit down and relax and have something to eat, have something to drink, and kind of reset once you're there. Okay, so when I get to a city, I try and go for a little bit of a walk, but I don't do a lot of walking. I really limit the amount of walking I do. A good idea to get active is to go and find the start and go, and if it's not a million miles away, because some of them do loop back, is to try and find the finish. Just get yourself accustomed to the environment that you've got to get to. It's unfortunate if you're outside of the city and you've got to travel in, but try and get out. Be active to a degree, but watch that you aren't overdoing it, because sometimes, you know, you can really, really overdo it when you get to a city because you try and explore and things like that. Leave that for the day after your race to try and walk that marathon out of your legs. But it's a really good tip, and it's one that I always do, is to try and find the start and finish line. Now the next tip, and I've done this, and I made the mistake, is to lose your routine. Don't lose your routine. And I did this in the Great North Run, and I came a cropper at mile 11 because I hadn't fueled effectively. I hadn't eaten, I hadn't done all the sort of stuff I've just told you about, about the fueling. So make sure that you are fueling. Make sure you're doing your bits when you would normally do it on a Saturday before race day if you're at home. Do exactly the same things. Transfer that routine to where you are. It's really, really important. It can make a big factor on race day. Right, last two tips. The one before, the penultimate, let's call it, is to get an early night. Makes sense, right? You need sleep, you need rest, you've had a long day. You might struggle to sleep, you're in a strange environment. I always sleep really badly the day before a race. Just always do. But get to bed early, get yourself some sleep, and make sure, again, that you're well hydrated. And my last tip is a real simple one, but just don't stress about stuff. it can be an anxiety raiser, like going abroad or travelling to another city and doing different things, and it can cause anxiety to increase. So just think about stuff. Just take a step back and try not to get stressed out about things. You know, simple things like getting on the tube and things, subway, or wherever you are in the world. But just deal with stuff. You know, take one step back, count to 10, all that kind of stuff. Just try to relax. That's the key message. Don't get stressed out about it, because you're wasting energy, and that energy you're going to need tomorrow. So there you go. Tips and tricks for travelling to a race abroad, or a race, you know, a little bit further away from home. They're the stuff that I'm going to be concentrating on doing on Saturday and Sunday in Edinburgh. And I think it's really important that if you're travelling to a race or event, that you sort of think about some of those things and maybe take that with you. Right, that's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow.